Hello, I'm Ashley Thomas, and here are my favourite movies of 2018 so far. Now, this is our top 10 list of, these movies that I'm about to mention and talk about are not in any particular order. There are only 6 movies that I'm going to mention, which are, so far, my favourite movies of 2018. There are quite a few movies that I haven't got around to seeing yet. One of those being Free Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Hereditary, you got Lady Bird, Isle of Dogs, Annihilation. There's a few more as well, but those are the movies that I really wanted to catch, but I just didn't get around to catching. So one of my favourite films of 2018 so far is a film that I've seen in the cinema but never got around to reviewing, and that is Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro. An absolute beautiful movie. I adored this film. It was a beautiful love story, and in ways it reminded me a little bit of Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. Maybe that's just me. I thought Shape of Water was Del Toro at his best. It was an elegant and mesmerizing experience. It was a tragic love story, you could say, and I looked at the movie. I was watching the movie and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to look at this as being a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Even though it's not, I actually thought that at times I thought they were going to reveal that, because I just thought but the creature itself looked pretty similar. So I think Del Toro was obviously inspired maybe by that movie. It felt original, it felt fresh. At the same time, it reminded me of those like sort of tragic love story fairy tales like Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands. So yeah, I enjoyed it so much. It was a mesmerizing experience and a well-crafted movie. Beautiful film. The next one is Coco. Pixar done it again. Absolutely I really enjoyed Coco. They took a very interesting theme concept, the Day of the Dead festival, and they really explored that very well with this movie. And it was quite an intense film, I thought, for kids. But I thought it was great in a way to sort of introduce kids, or give kids a life lesson, you could say, and sort of teach them about that there's this thing called death. And so I kind of liked how they approached that theme of death and sort of catered it for kids. I think it was a very smart film in that way. The colours in Coco, it was it was so vivid and so colourful, and it was just a pleasure to watch visually. It was a visual treat, and some of the music in it as well I kind of liked, and it had some really nice tender moments with certain characters, and I loved it. It was an enjoyable movie, and I think it's a very important film for kids. I think it's a film that kids really should watch at some point while they are growing up. My next favourite film of 2018 so far is A Quiet Place. Wow. I adored this film. I went into it not expecting. I didn't even know what the film was about. I just heard some good things about it. I didn't read the synopsis on it, so I didn't really know what it was about. I just had some idea that I thought it was a horror of some kind, or a supernatural horror, in fact, I thought it was. So I went in, watched it. I was blown away. I hadn't seen a trailer for the film, which really helped as well. I'm so glad I hadn't seen a trailer for the film. An absolute beautiful movie, very well crafted, emotional. It was a creepy movie, and it constantly adds you on the edge of your seat. It was a thrill ride. I loved it, and what an ending! And I loved that ending. For those that have seen the film will know what I'm on about, but that very last shot was just like, yeah. So yeah, the next film in my list of favourite movies of 2018 is Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War. Yep, a Marvel film. I do have a Marvel film that I'm actually quite fond of this year. Black Panther hasn't actually made my list of favourite films so far. I enjoyed it. I like Black Panther, don't get me wrong, but I find it incredibly overrated. It's also a film that I haven't done a review for. It was one of those films that I've seen that I didn't get around to doing a review for. Maybe it's just me, but I really did think Black Panther was overrated. but it was a good movie, don't get me wrong. But anyway, back to Infinity War, which is one of my favourite films of 2018 so far. I absolutely adored it. I loved it. It was one of the best superhero films I've ever seen. The fact that they sort of really focused on that villain made the film so much better. Yes, it sacrificed all the other characters as a result, and so sort of all the other characters felt a little bit underdeveloped. But the way they handled the movie, the way the directors, the Russo brothers, sort of crafted this movie, it was an ambitious task, I thought, because of the amount of material, the amount of characters they were handling. And even though it buckled and all of that, you could hear the sort of foundations creak. They managed to keep it together, and this movie just was... It was, in parts, an emotional ride. It was quite emotional. For me, I really, really enjoyed it. I loved Avengers Infinity War, and it's very, very rare that I actually use the word love and Marvel film. It's very rare that I will say I love a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, but I did love Infinity War. I've done a review for most of these movies, man, so I will leave that in a link below. I'll have some link pop up by for the reviews. But I really enjoyed Solo to a point where, yeah, I recognise it had problems, it had faults, it wasn't a perfect film. I had issues with characters and how they sort of handled the character Solo. So I did have some issues with those. But overall, it was a film that I wanted it to feel like, to look like. It felt like a Western, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. And so that's why it's one of my favourite films of the year so far. It's a Star Wars movie which I just really had a lot of fun with, and it just felt exactly like I wanted it to feel. It felt like this gritty Western. It felt real as well. It felt really real. I mean, they used a lot of practical effects, which a lot of these recent Star Wars films have been relying on, thank God. And so using CGI when they need to, and I was just really impressed with the movie. I thought Ron Howard did a really good job. Yeah, I do agree. It's not a perfect movie. But for me, it hit all the right spots. Yes, I had gripes with certain aspects of the film, also with the characters, the character's journey and all of that. But overall, I was entertained, and I was really happy with Ron Howard did and how he did it, really, considering what happened with him being brought on board last minute and sort of reshooting a lot of the movie. The film turned out a hell of a lot better than I think everyone thought it was going to. And so, yeah, Solo, A Star Wars Story, is one of my favourite movies of 2018 so far. So the last movie in my list, only 6, as I said, and that is Ready Player One. Absolutely, again, I enjoyed it so much. It was a hell of a ride. Yes, I had issues with it. It wasn't a perfect film. I wouldn't go as far as saying it was Spielberg's best. But I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved the nostalgia aspect. And it's quite funny because I say I loved the nostalgia aspect, but that was actually also one of my issues with the film. But just the way they did it was just, you couldn't help but enjoy it and end up falling in love with it. I enjoyed the movie. It was an enjoyable thrill ride, and it was like a nostalgic sort of sugar rush. It was what a film should do. Ready Player One was a classic example of what a movie should do, and that is transport you from the real world, suck you into its story and its world, and you get lost for 2 hours. That is what movies are supposed to do, and that's what Ready Player One did for me, as well as all the other films in this list. Solo, A Star Wars Story, A Shape of Water, Infinity War. I was transported into these worlds, and I enjoyed it, and that is why they're my favourite films so far. They may not be technically the best movies made, but that'd be a different list. Especially when it comes to my top 10. I think for those of you that have been following me now, when it comes to my top 10 movies, they're not what I regard as being technically the greatest movies made of the year. They're not movies that I may have rated A or A star or A plus. They are movies that I just really connected to on a personal and emotional level, and a level in which I just really enjoyed them and had a lot of fun with. That when I come to my list, that is what I look for, really, at the end of the day. Even though I recognise, for example, Solo, being a flawed film, there was a lot that I liked. There was a lot more I liked about Solo than I didn't like, and that is why it's in my favourite movies so far. Could potentially be in my top 10 of the year, but we got quite a few months. We got a few months left yet of the year, so we'll see what comes up and may knock Solo that list, but we'll find out, won't we? So yeah, what do you guys think are all my favourite movies of 2018 so far? Let me know below, I'd like to know. And what are your favourite movies of 2018 so far? There are a lot of movies that I haven't seen yet still. And like the ones I mentioned, I really want to see 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So like I said, I could end up seeing all those films that I haven't seen yet, like Lady Bird, Annihilation, Isle of Dogs. And Solo might just end up getting nudged out of that top 10 list of the year. We don't know. But yeah, let me know what are your favourites. Let me know if there was any sort of questionable choices in mine, you know, like Solo, really, you know. But just let me know and let's get a discussion going. And again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews by me, top 10 lists, top 5 lists, whatever, unboxings, then don't forget to hit subscribe.